The next segment is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it makes it really quick and easy to bet the best ways and add a little bit more energy to my Sundays while my fantasy team is just getting absolutely destroyed. So I got one question for you guys. Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and now by visiting FanDuel.com/UCSS to get started. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Jason, you weren't here yesterday when we talked in depth about the Browns' offensive line struggle, so I want to start with you on this one. When you look at this matchup against Green Bay, we know the offensive line has not played up to par yet, but the fact that Flacco's a statue back there does not help either. It's a little yin and a little yang. They both are playing into the issues with the offense not being able to connect on any deep passes. So when you look at this individual matchup, is the fact that Flacco is essentially a statue in the pocket, probably the least mobile quarterback in football right now, is that your biggest concern about this Browns offense going against this Green Bay defense?
Yeah, probably. And, I mean, listen, he wasn't very mobile when he was here before either. It was just, it felt more noticeable to me last week because just the way the Ravens were playing them, and they would show blitz, they would bring 6 to the line, and then they would drop 2. And it just felt at times like Cleveland's offensive line wasn't entirely sure who was coming and who was dropping. The tackles were awful. The problem with the Browns right now is the tackles. And in the middle with Joel and with Posick and with Teller, are these guys where they were 5 years ago? No, probably not. But they're still
they're good enough.
They're good enough. That's
Absolutely.
not the issue. The issue is on the edges. And, of course, with Micah Parsons coming to town now, yeah, that's going to be a real concern.
And Rashawn Gary's no slouch on the other end either.
For sure. So, I mean, DeWand is the biggest thing, and we can talk about more of him. I don't want to keep hammering DeWand. But this is honestly beyond quarterback. I was actually thinking about this morning. I don't think it's hyperbole to say the next biggest decision is DeWand. Because you see it, you have an answer you think at running back with Judkins. The defense, you see it. You see what you've got coming. This offensive line going forward beyond this year is in such disarray because of the contract situation. There's no guaranteed dollars on any of these guys. It is such a huge relief if you could look at DeWan Jones and say, that's our guy for the next 10 years. But he hasn't shown that yet.
Yeah.
So this is I don't want to say it's a crisis moment in Game 3. I'm not giving up on him yet. He's got to be significantly better than what he's been the first 2 games. I told you guys on Monday, Kevin was covering for DeWan. This wasn't a heat issue. He was terrible.
Zach said the same thing yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, we talked about it on Monday. I haven't been in since Monday. I haven't seen every show, what was said and what wasn't said. I told you guys then, Kevin was covering for him. And I think DeWan more or less said that. Like, I was fine.
Yeah.
His run game, he has to know his assignments. And he just doesn't at times. But all of the physical traits are there. If you're trying to design like a prototypical franchise left tackle, isn't that it? If he keeps his weight under control and like he can stay in shape and conditioning, that's it. So it's not physical at all with him. He just has to stay on point and know his assignments. But, I think that's part of the reason. I don't think these are explosive receivers. But I also think part of the reason that, 20 of 28 completions last week were to the backs and the tight ends was because they're trying to get the ball out quick because of what you talked about, because of Joe's lack of mobility. Hopefully at some point there's going to be some explosive plays within this offense, you would think. I don't expect every week to look as bad as last week did with Baltimore and Flacco, but the fact is they don't have the luxury of on 2nd and 12, if everybody's covered, just get 4. For the quarterback to just step up, if he could just run and get you 4 and put you at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, rather than 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15 because he took a sack, that makes such a big difference. And they just don't have that luxury right now. This is trying to play in the NFL today with a quarterback that can't move really hamstrings teams. And that's just the reality where the Browns are at right now.
Gino, you and I were on the panel yesterday, so we kind of gave our thoughts. But when you look at this specific Packers defense and their defensive scheme, is the fact that Flacco can't move what concerns you most in that offense versus defense matchup?
No, because it's more than just that. That it's just like it's a compounding type situation. When you talk about Joe Flacco and his ability to not be able to move, that does it highlights some of the deficiencies that you have. So say, for instance, plays where you may expect to step up or buy a little more time to get a guy a couple more extra seconds to throw the ball deep, you don't have that. So now that compound situations where now it's like Jerry Jeudy, and I talked to Dustin the other day. I mean, Jerry Jeudy is a good receiver, but Jerry Jeudy is not Tyreek Hill in his prime or some of those other guys. He's not A.J. Brown, a big physical guy that could just kind of bully you at the top of your route. So he's like, there's a lot of things. He's a route runner. So it's not like, they're going to be just threatened. So I'm playing close too. So you may need a couple extra seconds for Jeudy to get some separation, right? And then you talk about the run game. The lack of the run game makes everything more constricted. So now they're not worried about your play action game. We said before, hey, Stefanski wants to run play action, but you actually have to run the ball in order to somebody respect that type of game. So these are all things that we got that's going into it. The Flacco not being able to run, that's part of it. That's why it's paramount to me that Kevin has to get all the way in his creative bag. He got to get all the way in his college football bag in terms of figuring out is there some way we can manufacture some yards, right? Can we manufacture some cheap stuff? Like stuff where I'm going to be responsible for giving you something that I just out-scheme the defense, and that's a great look, so we can get some yards here or there. But so I think that's the way you have to go when you don't have a quarterback that is very mobile and can extend plays naturally. And then hopefully after you do those things, it slows the defense down to a point where they have to actually think about their assignments and where the Browns, right now, they're lining up. And I mean, you go watch the Ravens secondary or Roquan Smith. They are walking to where they need to be at because there's nothing. They already know it. They know the plays. They know what's coming. And if you got teams that are already more skilled than you, more physically gifted than you, and they got more guys than you in terms of playmakers, you're not going to win them games.
Yeah, you look at how Baltimore played defense against the Browns. Look at how Cincinnati played defense against the Browns. How I expect Green Bay to play defense tomorrow or Sunday. We're playing two high safeties and saying, just please run the ball. We don't believe you can run the ball on us downfield consistently. So we're going to keep you in 2nd and 8s, 3rd and longs, and force you to beat us with a throw. When you look at this matchup, though, listen, we've talked about it yesterday. I'm not going to harp on the whole thing again. Flacco can't move. He wasn't very mobile in 2011 when he was winning Super Bowls with the Ravens. He's even less mobile at 40 now when you have 2 pass rushers in Parsons and Rashawn Gary, who know exactly where the quarterback's going to be on almost every drop back. It just makes their job easier against guys like DeJuan Jones. And I don't know if Jack Conklin's going to play. Jason, I'm not sure if we have an update on that elbow injury, but,
the last I had heard, it didn't sound like he was close. But that was a few days ago, so I don't know if something's
mind you,
changed or not.
Batonio has a practice all week. Am I correct?
Yeah, he said he was fine. He just wasn't going to practice.
He misses a lot of practice during the season. I would expect Joel to play. But yeah, he has missed the last couple of days with a back. He's had a back for years that kind of flares up.
That's called old.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
The one
dude in his last year of his career.
The one thing I know, I was watching Thursday Night Football last night, and Josh Allen's obviously a freak athlete, so they do a little bit with him in Buffalo, but more of how Mike McDaniel uses Tua, who's not the most mobile quarterback, and they try to avoid him getting hit at all costs.
Sure.
Like, we know his concussion
with his history. Yeah.
They avoid him getting hit at all costs. They move the pocket in subtle ways because their offensive line isn't good. And and once again, this is no disrespect to Joe Flacco. I don't think he's fast enough to move the pocket with G. By the time he got to his new target spot, the entire route's been run, and now they're in scramble drill. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think he has the mobility to actually utilize some of those other options available to a coach to generate more time, because I don't think Flacco gets there quick enough unless you're running a 40-yard combo route. And I don't know if we have the receivers to get the separation you need on those deep routes.
It's, I liked, if you go back a little bit, I don't know if they've changed philosophies in it, but a lot of it that I like is when you're talking about running boots and stretch type schemes, the thing that me as a defensive lineman that I always didn't like about those schemes that were difficult for me to cover was the fact that I'm responsible for a gap. So if they're running stretch this way, my gap is actually condensing. So I have to be able to condense with it, because if I don't condense enough and they hand it to the running back, there's a cutback lane.
Your SOL,
The B and the C gap is widening, and that there's a gap right there. So I have to crash down. So it makes it essentially, on that bootleg, it takes one of your defensive ends out of the play because they have to honor that, right? And so they did that a lot with Baker Mayfield. Yep. They did a ton of it because, you know, they had guys that could really run the zone. And when you're running zone, you're just taking your zone step, the zone stretch steps, and then it's easy to figure out who you got. If the guy flashes front side, you know you got him. And if he wants to run that way, take him and run him that way. Yeah. So now you got a cutback lane. So though I like that scheme better, right now they're running a lot of duo play action where it's just the play action and Flacco still, you know, show run action, he's still in the pocket. But that's not, the defensive ends, they don't have to respect that because their gap isn't moving. I'm just stay here and be in my gap. So I think that they need to get more east and western and some things too. And by the way, I just hate runs out of shotgun. I don't hate them, but it's not dramatic enough. It don't affect me.
The play action, you mean?
The play action ain't as devastating when it's here, and then I'll pull it. It's crazy because now I got to really, really respect that under play action under
do you know
shotgun.
When shotgun play action works, though? When you have a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen or a mobile quarterback, that the read option is now an available option in the play action.
RPO game is part of it, right? All that's up for play. But for us, that's not even an option for us.
Your explanation of that was perfect because you mentioned Baker. When Kevin was really installing this offense, Baker's numbers on boots were terrific. And everything went to crap with Deshaun. It just didn't work. But so if you got to go all the way back to Baker, that's how it's supposed to look. And they can't get there with Joe. And that takes out a big portion of this offense when you can't move the pocket, when you can't roll the quarterback. So eventually they are going to get to Dylan, and eventually that's going to come back. For two reasons. One, Kevin's comfortable calling it. That's the way the offense is supposed to look. And two, you have to move the pocket because of Dylan's size.
Right.
So it's funny how, like, we talked about it last year. It just felt like they had two identities last year because you had Ken Dorsey trying to call one game.
Four verts.
Yeah, and with receivers who, you're right, I mean, all the data was there. They were slow receivers who don't create separation, and they're trying to just run vertical routes. It didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then they'd come back the next week, and it almost looked like the offense of 2 years prior. So they just had this identity crisis. I don't know it's to that extent, but you will see when Dylan and if we get to Shador, you will see an offense that looks different than what they have to run with Joe right now just because of Joe's lack of mobility.
And that goes back to why it's my biggest concern is I just think they're playing with, I don't know, I'm making an arbitrary number, but like 62% of their playbook. Because there are certain things that they just simply cannot run due to Joe's lack of mobility.
It's a I call it the land of misfit toys. Like, you know, you got one He-Man, one G.I. Joe, one Transformer, one Thundercat. It's like you ain't got the whole set of the toys. You just got you got piece here, piece here, piece there. And back then, everything was complementary because you had three running backs that all did different things. That you had a battering ram and Kareem Hunt that was really great out of the backfield. Dearness Johnson was a stretch guy, cutback guy. Nick Chubb was Nick Chubb. You know what he was going to be able to give you. The screen game was at the ultimate high, right?
Yeah.
Now you're inviting guys into the backfield. The screen game, he would have it from different angles, and you still had a guy like Jarvis Landry who was smaller, but was a tremendous blocker, he catch the football underneath. And you still, and for whatever it is worth, you still had guys that would respect Odell Beckham Jr. because they was like, yo, he could run past us. And David and Joe. So they had the pieces and parts to kind of do that kind of stuff, to be multiple. Now, it's not the same parts. You got a nice running back. We'll see how that works. But the receiving core, no.
Yeah.